All right. It
Okay.
says recording in progress. Testing 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. I like karaoke. Hey, hello, Oz. Thank you for your time. How's it going? Yeah. So originally, you are from Canada, who lived and worked
Mhm.
in Japan for 15 years.
Yeah.
My mother and I used to watch your YouTube videos before I came to Japan. I still
Okay.
remember the first time I came here in 2019 when we first met up in Shinjuku and hung
Yes,
out
yes.
at that,
Before COVID. Before COVID, yeah.
yeah, pre-COVID at the Showa Izakaya. And
Yes, yes.
um, and after that,
Sorry.
we went out to look for some karaoke
Yeah, yeah.
that night.
It was so
It
nice.
was sure a Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or should I say Cheech and Chong night out on the boulevard of Tokyo.
Yeah.
Good
Yeah. It was
times,
fun.
good times. Yeah. So, how long have you been YouTubing in Japan?
Well, I started YouTube in 2009.
Okay.
So I guess 11, 12 years. But I started actually when I was in Canada.
Hmm.
I've been in Japan 15 years, but I was in Japan for 5 years. And then I went back to Canada and then I came back for another 10 years. So when I was in Japan my first time around, I didn't do YouTubing because at that time there was no real YouTube and it had just started and it was not really like a thing yet for like video making. It was more like just pirated videos of Simpsons and stuff.
Mm.
And then once people started vlogging, I had already left Japan when it became like a tool for like actual YouTubing for people to make their own videos. And I
Mhm.
started watching YouTube in Japan, like early YouTubers. And then I started doing YouTube in Canada about Japan first before I came back to Japan and then continued my YouTubing. So it's been like 12 years, I think, about 12 years. Yeah,
A
maybe
long
more.
time. Quite a long
Yeah, a long
time.
time. Yeah.
Yeah. So, what first sparked your interest in coming to Japan?
The first time around, I was finishing school, university, college, and then I was in like this internship program, and I was working at an advertising agency, but I wasn't really enjoying it. And one of the people that I was, my classmates, had actually went to Korea for a year to teach English, and she recommended that I should, if I'm not sure what I want to do with my life yet, and if I'm okay with, if I don't want to backpack or something, if I want to kind of try living abroad, a good idea would be to go to Korea or Japan or China or whatever, Asia, and teach English. And she gave me her like diary, a 1 year diary of her life in
Hmm.
Korea, and I pretty much like read it like all in like one night or whatever, and I was like, oh, okay, I'm definitely going to Asia. And so I decided after my internship was over, I would, instead of looking for a job in Canada, I would try to work abroad in teaching English. So I applied to the whole bunch of countries: China, Taiwan, Korea, Japan, and I just chose Japan because it's from the forums and stuff. It seemed like it was the safest country,
I
and
see.
'cause I was reading some forums where they were saying like a lot of schools are kind of sketchy and they might not pay you or they might just close down and then you're screwed. But in Japan, the schools are pretty stable and the currency is strong. And it sounded like Japan would be the safest bet for somebody who, like me, who'd never lived abroad and didn't know much about Asia in the first place.
I
So
see.
I thought that would be the easiest way to go. So I chose Japan only for that reason, and then a little bit because I like sushi and stuff like that. But
Okay.
unlike a lot of people who come to Japan because they know the culture or they love manga or anime, or there's something about Japan that really grabs them that they want to come. For me, it was just like it seems like the safest and easiest place to live in Asia.
Mm,
So that's why I chose Japan in the first place.
okay. Okay. All right. So that brings me to culture shock. For newcomers coming to Japan, generally there are three, if not four phases. What people may experience as culture shock, primarily the honeymoon phase,
Yes.
frustration phase, the
Mhm.
adjustment phase, and the acceptance phase. Did you at any point in time experience any of these?
Um, I had the honeymoon phase, I guess, for my first year in Japan.
Hmm.
But I would like I guess I think I'm a different case because with like I said, when I came here, I wasn't like a Japanophile or like really in love with Japan. So it wasn't like I came here and I was so happy that I was here and I was loving everything. And then the next phase, I was like, oh, got frustrated or anything. Because when I came here, I didn't know what to expect. I didn't really do much research. I kind of wanted to go with an open mind because I didn't want to know too much about the country. So for me, it wasn't really a honeymoon phase. It was more like, oh, okay, so this is what Japan is like because I wasn't expecting. I had no expectations really.
Okay.
So I didn't really go through the honeymoon phase. I guess I just enjoyed. I liked living in Japan because it was different from Canada where I came from.
Okay.
And then of course the frustration came in with the language barrier and
Mhm.
not being able to communicate with a lot of people and a lot of stuff. You need Japanese, and there was no English translations. And especially when I first arrived, it was like 2003, 2004. And at that time, there weren't that many foreigners in Japan. It wasn't so connected like internationally like it is now. There was no
Mhm.
Twitter or Facebook or anything like that. So there wasn't a lot of knowledge or a lot of English like in the country to begin with. So it was a lot more frustrating when I first got here. And then of course I accepted it. So I guess that's the acceptance phase.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think I touched on the phases a little bit, but it wasn't as shocking for me because, like I said, I went in not knowing what to expect anyway.
Hmm.
So
Okay. All right. So with regards to language, did you like take any classes in Japan or any
not
languages?
I should have. I wish I did. I should have studied at least Japanese a little bit before I came here, or at least once I got here. I
Mm.
should have like maybe like put my head to it and started like studying. But my first year, I honestly I didn't speak any Japanese. I just was it was my first time being abroad and it was my first job ever, like a real job. I was working at Eon in Kaiwa and I was teaching like adults English in Nagoya. And so I was supposed to speak English all day, and I my only friends were like my coworkers who were all foreigners too. So I spent the whole year just speaking English. So I think that's one of my
Okay.
biggest regrets is I didn't focus on the language. But then on my second year and third year, I started wanting to learn Japanese a little bit more. So I took a course for like one semester at the YMCA of Japan. They had their own like Japanese courses and it was pretty good. I liked it, but I only did it for it was kind of expensive, so I only did it for like one term. And then I guess I studied mostly like through internet or just on my own, like using textbooks or um that kind of stuff. I didn't really take any formal education for Japanese. Um and yeah, pretty much. And then after that, it was just like I would just learn by being in Japan, just by like talking to people or going to karaoke or just interacting with people outside. So I didn't actually. That's why I'm not really good. I can't really read or write kanji much. I'm okay with the listening and speaking, but not with like the reading or writing.
I
So
see.
yeah, I didn't go on the route that a lot of people go. I did take the JLPT, and because I was like, I should at least try to learn Japanese and try to
Mm.
experience the language. So I did buy a whole bunch of textbooks from like the bookstore, and I studied for like a year, and I took the JLPT N3, which I passed, so that was good. Um, and I felt like okay, that was a good accomplishment. And I wanted to do N2, but it's like a such huge jump from N3 to N2. So I knew that if I don't actually like join a class or get a professional teacher to help me, it's gonna be really difficult. So I
Hmm.
didn't get taking the N3. And then right when I finished N3, then a year later, COVID started. And then things just kind of fell apart and there was no classes being offered and stuff like that. So I kind of
Yeah.
just kind of once COVID started, I kind of just like gave up
Hmm.
on language study formally. I decided I'll just do a little bit on my own, like I've been doing my whole
Okay.
time here.
All right.
Yeah.
On the same page with language, with regards to the daily grind, such as work,
Mhm.
paying bills, grocery
Yeah.
shopping, life can get a bit busy for those on the go. Are there any resources or suggestions you would recommend with regards to learning enough Japanese to at least get around for newcomers? Any?
Uh, yeah, I would say that it depends on like where you live, but most towns you live in, they
Mhm.
have the community center where they have either free or really cheap English lessons. So it would depend, I mean not English lessons, Japanese lessons. So it would
Mhm.
depend on your work schedule, but for example, when I first moved to Chiba, I was a kindergarten teacher, but I
Mhm.
had Mondays off. So there was a slot for at a community center where there was English lessons on Mondays. So I did that for a little bit. I think I did it for like 2 or 3 months, and it was like a volunteer Japanese person who taught Japanese to like my class only had like 5 or 6 students, but like
Mhm.
and all of us were from like different countries like China and Korea and like Brazil, I think, and stuff like that. So there are a lot of like Japanese schools, but they're pretty expensive. But if you go to the community center ones, they're cheaper. So that's one option. Also, one of my friends started doing since the pandemic started doing online Japanese lessons like through Skype.
Okay.
That those are pretty cheap, and you can I think they were all like for 1 hour as little as like 500 yen or something like that. So it's
Okay.
not bad if you're like, especially from if you work from home or if you don't want to travel so much, or if you live somewhere in the countryside where it's really far to get to like the schools. You could
Yeah.
probably do a lesson online, and that might be a good start to get um Japanese level up. But if you're not into like if you want to be like me, which I wasn't really into actual formal learning, I just
Mhm.
learned Japanese through listening to music
Mhm.
and watching Japanese dramas and trying to read a little bit of manga and just trying little things here and there. And it just helped with my vocabulary and my listening skills. I think
Mhm.
listening became my best skill because I did mostly listening to music and singing karaoke and watching TV dramas, Japanese dramas,
Yeah.
with as much Japanese listening as possible. So I think that
Okay.
helped the most. Yeah.
Okay. Great. Um, all right. So, with regards to that, we move on to work environment. Of course, many of us
Mm.
come out here to experience Japan, but it costs money. Got to pay the rent. Got to pay the bills. Of your 15 years in Japan, you have worked
Yeah.
in both English conversation and public schools.
Yeah.
Um, Unlike places back in Canada and the US, Japan can be a whole new world with regards to work etiquette, of which in itself can also be a major culture shock for many.
Mhm.
Um, what were the
First had
struggles you may
when
have working for a Japanese company?
So I worked for the conversation, the private conversation. So it was more like a business rather than like school. So the first thing that was really weird for me was I didn't have to just teach English, but it's kind of like sales. So like I had to do like to try to sell textbooks or try to sell them like bonus materials for studying English. And I'd have to like try to, even though they weren't ready, kind of push them to like re-sign on for another year and try to push them up to the next level of English that the school provided, even though they're not really ready for it and stuff.
Mhm.
So I kind of felt it's kind of like a lot of sales more than teaching, because a lot of the what do you call it, the Eikaiwa system, you don't really have to teach much. Everything is in a set formula where they tell you
Mhm.
do this, and this. So you kind of just have to be there and follow the formula. So there's not much teaching or much freedom involved. It's mostly like just a business. And then we'd have to have business meetings every week in Japanese where I don't know what's going on. So if you don't speak, like I said, if you don't speak Japanese, those meetings are pretty much useless for you, but it's just part of the Japanese culture. You have to like, we'd have to wear a suit and we'd have to follow the formula and we'd have to do the sales and we'd have to have business meetings. So it's kind of very different from what I was expecting, like when an English teacher would be. So that was weird. But then on the other side, when I went to public schools, it's completely opposite. It's like I'm an assistant language teacher in ALT. So, and you've done that. You're doing ALT
Oh,
as
yeah.
well. So I mean, like you're the main teacher is the main teacher, and you just kind of support that teacher. And
Mhm.
depending on that Japanese teacher, it kind of decides your fate. of, are you going to be just a person that stands there and reads like a sentence throughout the class, or are you going to take over the entire class and have to teach everything, or are you just like the game guy, the game sensei, or the
Mm,
music sensei? Like it depends on what
yeah.
the teacher wants you to do, right? So it's not like to you. So I kind of felt like, I don't, like I said, I didn't work too much in North America because I
Mm,
came after school, but I felt like it's very like structured about what you're supposed to do, and you
mhm,
don't really have say or much freedom in what you want to do. But as an ALT, it, like I said, depends on teacher, but if you can get the freedom that they give you to do classes stuff, it can be really fun as well, and it's a lot more casual. I don't know about your school, but in my school, you don't have to wear a suit or anything. Most teachers in Japan wear tracksuits. So I wasn't allowed to wear a tracksuit because that's a little bit too informal, even though every other teacher wore tracksuits, but I was okay to wear like khaki pants and like a polo shirt or something.
mhm.
So I was surprised that it was a lot more casual. Whereas in the Eon, I had to always wear a suit, like a tie and a jacket and everything. So it's
Okay.
very formal.
So
Yeah.
what was it you liked and or not liked about working
Yeah,
in
I mean, I
Japan?
kind of like I said, I've never really lived, I mean, worked or lived in any other country for work that much, a little bit in Canada. But I think what I liked about Japan was, well, as the good thing is, as a foreigner, usually when you hear about Japan, it's like everyone's a workaholic and they're from morning to night and they can't stop working. And so as a foreigner in Japan, what I liked is like there's very little responsibility and there's very little like push to overwork or to work overtime or anything like that. So I had set hours. I know when what day I'm working from what time to what time, and I have long, as an ALT, you get long vacations, so I had long
Mm,
vacations. So I like the lifestyle I can live, that I can like have in Japan, because I like to work, but I also like to play. So for me, it's like the perfect balance. As a foreigner living in Japan, I can go to work, I can do my work thing, but once the work is done, I can focus on my own life and do my own thing. Whereas Japanese people can't do that really. They just pretty much have to work their whole life, and it's like really tough for them.
yeah.
Um, yeah. So I guess I like the fact that it's very like, I don't want to say not, I have no responsibility, because I do have responsibility, but I
Mm,
don't have much stress or pressure. It's more like my job's always fun. Like I've never had a job where I'm so stressed out or I'm so like frustrated that I'm angry or I can't take it anymore. I've like, all my jobs have been like, everyone around me is friendly. The teachers that I work with are
mm,
friendly. The students are friendly. The managers are pretty friendly. I've never had like really any kind of clashes or like friction with any people I've worked with in the last 15 years. So I can't really say anything bad about the job environment. The only thing I don't like about working in Japan is unfortunately the money.
mm,
Like the the my salary has every gone lower from the last 15 years I worked in Japan. You would think I'd slowly go up in salary, but like my highest salary ever was, I think, when I was in my third year in Japan. I think that I peaked at my third year, and then
mm.
it's either been the same or down ever since.
I
So like
see.
there's no real increase. If you stay with the same company, it's you probably will stay at the same. You might go up a little bit in salary, but you pretty much, it's like capped pretty much. And even if
Mm,
you change companies and get a raise or whatever, it's still pretty much around the same range of what most people make in Japan as an English teacher. You're not
mhm,
really gonna be able to make a you can make an income that will, you can survive. It's not like you can't survive on the income. It's a good income, and especially if you get married or whatever, if you have a double income, then you're totally fine and you can support kids. So I'm not saying you can't live off of the salary in Japan, but you can't expect to ever get more than what you're already getting. That's what I guess
mm,
the thing that's kind of I don't like, is like I'm kind of stuck at the same salary till I die, pretty much, till I
mm.
retire. Like,
See.
yeah, I'll never be able to like go up. Whereas like in North America, it seems like raises and promotions are kind of, the longer you stay at a company, the more likely you are to have a higher salary and more
Mm,
vacation time and more money. But in Japan, it kind of just stays constant for like your whole life, pretty much.
I see. I see. Okay.
Yeah.
So with that said, what would be the best English teaching companies you would recommend working for in Japan. Why?
If you're working for like ALT, or you mean like Eikaiwa or anything?
Either or, Eikaiwa or ALT, both.
Um, I would say if you can get it. I would say get a job at a university. That's apparently I've never been able to do that. I haven't ever able to do that. I think you need a master's and just luck and like maybe a connection somehow. But if you can get a job teaching English or in the English department at a university or college, that's probably the best job I would say you should be
Mhm.
aiming for if you're going to Japan to teach. Other than that, a direct hire for like if you're going to be an ALT rather than working for the dispatch companies where they're kind of middlemen that take a cut of your salary,
Mm,
going directly with the actual the government of the board of education of the city you're in is probably the best way to. It's kind of like good job security,
mhm.
and usually kind of are put into the Japanese government kind of system.
I
So for
see.
me, like where I work at, I'm a direct hire from the city. So because of that, not only do I get a better salary, but
Mhm.
I also get the twice bonuses that Japanese people get. You know, the big bonuses that Japanese people get twice a year.
I
Because
see.
I'm a technically a government employee, I also receive those two bonuses per year. Whereas I've
Mhm.
never gotten that any company where it's not the part of the Japanese government. So if you're going to be an English teacher as an ALT, I would definitely recommend try to find a direct hire through the city of wherever in Japan.
Okay.
I would say that those are two. If you like kids, then I would say kindergartens are really fun.
Mhm.
Kids are awesome. The teachers are nice. The salaries are pretty good. They're pretty high.
Okay.
They're higher than ALT, and it's a lot of fun if you like kids. So I did that for 6 years. I was a kindergarten teacher for 6 years.
Mhm.
So I would recommend that for if you're a kid lover. If you're not a kid lover, then maybe not the best choice. Um,
Mm.
ALT is better or adult. If you're like, and what I really liked about ALT Eikaiwa is if you're not in it for the money and you just want to like get good experience and have good like good um teaching experience, but not only teaching experience, but like good just experiences overall with your life in Japan, I would say Eikaiwa teacher for adults. Because that means you'll be teaching anywhere from high school students to retired senior citizens and in between. And it's actually having real conversations with real Japanese people, and you get to know so much about the country, about the people. It's a good way to make friends. Like most when I first came to Japan, I didn't have any friends, but all my friends were either the teachers or in the end I started becoming friends with a lot of the students who are like businessmen or student like high university students or salarymen or office ladies, and I got to see a lot more of the Japanese culture outside of the classroom because of those people, because I could become friends with them. And so I would say if you're in for like the experiences of Japan, being an adult Eikaiwa teacher is also a really good thing to do.
Okay. Very good. All right. Well, on BOE, so Bureau of Education, how was the healthcare working for them as a direct
Uh,
hire?
yeah, as a direct hire, you're pretty much treated exactly like a Japanese person. So I
Mhm.
have the same because I'm a government employee, so I
Mm.
get the same healthcare and the same pension. I have to pay all the pension and the benefits. Like everything is the same as a Japanese person who will also be working for the board of whatever in the government.
Okay.
So with ALT, as my town, we have you get the blue health card, which is just like with every other person in Japan, where they cover 70% of your healthcare and you just pay the 30% to the
Mhm.
doctor.
Okay.
You have to pay the pension and all that. So it's just like every other Japanese person.
I see.
Yeah.
So okay, so basically paying your monthly healthcare insurance bills, which can
Yeah.
cost an
Yeah.
arm and a leg at times.
A
Uh,
pension, I found the pension is the most expensive. Like that's a big chunk of the salary goes to pension. And if you're not
mm,
gonna live to 65, it's kind of like you're paying for nothing, right? All that money
mm,
is going away. So that kind of sucks. But with at least with health insurance, I think I don't remember exactly. I don't know how much it costs. I can't remember. But
mm,
the good thing is the government or the company, whatever, pays half of it. So you only
mm.
have to pay. So it's not that expensive considering. I mean, as long as you're going to be using the doctor. if you're healthy and you don't need any health insurance, then maybe for you it kind of sucks because you just have to pay monthly for nothing.
Mm-hmm.
But with me, for example, I have type 2 diabetes, so I need to go to the hospital once every couple of months and have to checkups, regular checkups, and eye checkups and things, and all
Yeah.
of that is covered with the health insurance. So it's really good
Okay.
for me. Yeah.
For any non-Japanese speakers out there, there's the language barrier. As you spoke about language earlier, that can be a
Yeah.
barrier going to clinics, hospitals, and the dental office.
Yes.
And there are times where non-Japanese may be treated a little differently than others, especially for serious issues like injuries, illnesses, and whatnot. The further you get away from the bigger cities, the lesser likely the chance of people speaking English. For example, what would you recommend to newcomers coming out here? Would you recommend them to go to the big cities like Yokohama and Tokyo to get treatment, or?
Yeah, if they can get close to a bigger city, I would say go there. It's worth the commute.
Mhm,
Um, because there's a lot of English speaking doctors in those
mhm,
places. But even in the small cities, I would first check with like it depends on where you live, but most cities have a list of English speaking doctors. I don't know where you get the list from because honestly,
mm,
I was given it by the government where I worked, but I'm sure if
mm,
you just go to your local city hall, they might have a list of doctors that officially will
mm.
have English speaking doctors, and then you could go through there if it's close to you. If
Yeah.
not, if you're really really small town where there are no English speaking doctors, I would definitely recommend going commuting to like Tokyo or Yokohama or Chiba or wherever, just
Mm,
because you try. I mean, I when I first came to Japan and I had to go to an emergency actually, and I didn't speak a word of Japanese, and
mm,
it was a really weird experience. But because everyone in Japan is pretty friendly, even with the language barrier, I was
yeah.
still able to without having any help. Like one day I was cleaning my bathroom and I was using some spray called Cubby Killer. I don't know if you know what that is, but it's a really strong, like very, very, very strong dissolvent
Okay.
that people use to get rid of like this fungus or mold or whatever.
Yeah,
And I
yeah,
sprayed the whole entire bathroom with it because in the summer it gets really humid and it gets really like moldy in there. So
yeah.
I wanted to just kill it all. And then I finished spraying, but I accidentally, when I was about to like turn off the light, pull the light, a drop went right into my eye
Oh,
and it started burning. So I washed it with like water, but it was burning so much that I was like, I need to go to the emergency. And it was like in the evening. So I pretty much walked like one eye with like I walked to the local hospital because I didn't know where the hospital was. So I just kind of quickly checked it and I found the closest hospital. And I went to the emergency area and nobody spoke English. And it was just one doctor there and like five
mm,
nurses. And I just kind of using gestures and I just
mm,
got killer eye itai, right? Like very basic. And
mm,
they're like, oh, okay. And then like they put me into the room and they laid me down and these two nurses just started spraying what I think is saline solution. I don't even know what it was because I
mm,
couldn't understand anything what was going on. And then eventually they just gave me some like eye drops and they made
mm.
me like fill out some form. I didn't know what was going on. So they tried to help me as much as they could.
Yeah,
I mean, it's not impossible. Like, even if your English, if your Japanese is very low, you can still try to go on your own. But if you're worried that, like you were saying, if there's some specific injury or you don't want to be treated unfairly, or you think like you don't trust maybe the doctor or something, and you want
yeah.
more like something like that, then yeah, maybe try going. And if it's not an emergency, try going to like a big city hospital.
Mm,
That's probably your best bet.
yeah.
But yeah, it is hard. A lot of things like that are hard to do if you don't speak the language. And even
Yeah.
until now, sometimes I can't deal with some things by myself. So I need to ask somebody who speaks better Japanese or like
Mm,
usually like my company that I work for, the English, my manager or whatever usually speaks English and Japanese. I can
mm,
ask them. That's probably
mm.
the
Okay. Okay. Well, now that you're moving back to Canada, will you
yeah.
be doing any YouTube videos there?
I'm gonna try. Like I don't know how many people want to watch, but I started YouTube in the beginning
Hmm.
because I was so jealous of all the the YouTubers who were doing YouTubing in Japan, and I was there and I didn't have a chance to do it because
Mm,
there were seeing then. So when I got back, I really wanted to be a YouTuber. And then
mhm,
I would say, like, after 5 years of YouTubing, I was really trying to make it into a career. Like, I wanted to work full time as a YouTuber. But
mm,
the longer I make videos and the less successful I got, I realized like it's hard to break into the YouTubing market, especially if you're YouTubing in Japan. If you're not like a good looking girl, or like someone who's
mhm,
like really into otaku culture, or
mhm.
something that's really like Japanesey, it's hard for just like a regular dude just talking about life in Japan to
Yeah.
YouTuber, right? To a full time. So once that realization that it's never gonna blow up to the amount where it's actually gonna be an income for me, I
Mhm.
realized I can either stop making YouTube or I can continue it for myself. And so that's what I did. So now my YouTube is more like it's almost like my life diary. Like I
Mm.
want to like look like even now I can go back and see my video I made 10 years ago in Japan and kind of like, oh my God, that was me 10 years ago. So
Uh,
10 time in the future, I want to do the same thing. I want to be like, oh, look, this is like my first week in Japan. I can't believe I filmed that or whatever. So if for
mhm.
me now, it's more like a diary, online diary, I guess you
Yeah.
would call it. And also a little bit of education and a little bit of sharing, because I do know a lot of people ask me questions about Japan or they want to know stuff about Japan. So I
Yeah.
will probably, in Canada, I'll continue YouTube, but I don't know what I'm going to focus on. I don't know if I'm going to continue making videos that are based on Japan, or am I gonna like switch it up and try to teach Japanese people what it's like to live in Canada, maybe, and
Mhm.
like, reverse it. Or because I'm taking my wife with me, Mayu who's Japanese,
Mhm.
so maybe I'll maybe focus on her more, like, because she's a really good cook, so maybe like cooking lessons with her,
Okay.
or Japanese cooking. Like, there's so many different things I can do. I could even like make my channel into a what to do in Canada kind of thing. Same thing
Yeah.
like I was doing in Japan, but change it to life in Canada.
Mm.
I don't know, like there's so many choices. So I think I'm just gonna go with the flow, and whatever
Okay.
I feel like uploading, I'll upload and just see how it goes. 'Cause either way, I want to make videos no matter what. So whether people watch or not, as long as it's recorded in my life, that's
Mhm.
my main goal now. So I will be making videos on YouTube. I'm just not sure if people will be watching them.
Right.
That's the biggest question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I heard there are about roughly around 11 cultural communities in Toronto, and
Okay.
with cultural
Yeah, yeah.
communities and cultural
Toronto's
towns
very,
are
very fun. Yeah, yeah. There's like
many
so many
restaurants.
different towns. Yeah, yeah, exactly. So there's a Koreatown and Japantown and Italy and Italy and Portugal town and Jamaica
Yeah.
town, and so I'm sure even just showing those different cultures would be interesting as well. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
maybe
Yeah.
something like that too. So
Right on. Right on.
who knows?
What kind of work do you plan on doing in Canada? Do you have in mind?
I was thinking about that, and I was thinking anything but teaching, honestly, because I've been doing it in Japan for 15 years, and I don't, first of all, I don't have the actual teaching degree to do
Mm.
actual teaching in Canada. So I'd
Yeah.
have to either go back to school to get a teaching degree, or I'd have to work in like language schools, kind of what are like Eikaiwa schools of Japan, but in Canada.
Mhm.
And the pay for that is not so good, and they're also
Mm.
not I don't know how much demand there is for that. So most likely I will not be doing that. But you know
Okay.
what? That's my biggest concern right now is what do I do when I get back? Like, I've been away
Mm.
for so long. I have no job experience in Canada. I
Mm.
have like no real like transferable skills like IT or programming or something like that, where anybody, if you have that skill, you can go anywhere and do it. Like,
Yeah.
I think I'm gonna have to find something that's like uses my communication and uses English, but my writing skills and my maybe some kind of customer service job or something.
Okay.
But if possible, like actually, what one of my best jobs I really want to do, like I was saying, like university. I want to work in Canadian universities, but not as like a professor or a teacher, but like
Mhm.
as like the administrative kind of staff, like helping with international students, or
Okay.
because that kind of relates to me living abroad for like so long, right? So I
Yeah.
kind of like would be helping international students adjust to life in Canada, or helping them setting up whatever they need for their school or whatever to, you know, homestays or stuff like that, whatever. I don't know.
Yeah.
that's something that I'm starting to look into, and that might be something that's also probably hard to get into because I've never worked in university and I don't have that kind of experience. But that would be one option for me to try to like apply for those jobs like that. So
Okay.
probably something to do with like communications and people and international
All
relations
right.
or something. Yeah. If you're
Sounds
hiring,
good.
let me know.
Yeah, yeah. Keep you posted. Um, so what will you miss and or not miss about Japan when you leave?
I think like, number one thing I'll miss is definitely the food. The
Mm,
food here is awesome. It's not only like delicious and cheap,
yeah,
it's
true.
actually healthy,
Yes.
and and so there's so much variety. Like, there's so much food all over the place. Even places like the convenience store or the supermarket have so many different kinds of food products
Mhm.
that you can never get bored. So I think I'm gonna miss the food the most.
Okay.
Um, and also I do like the country. I do like the places. I do that's why I do the travel videos because I've traveled so many places and there are so many fun places to see and do. And I haven't witnessed it all, so it would be good if I can like see all of that stuff. But I'll miss like just traveling in Japan and life in Japan. I think the only thing I won't miss for sure is the summers. The summers are
Really?
just too yeah, they're too hot and humid. I mean, I'll miss the stuff like cherry blossoms, I'll miss
Mm.
like summer festivals or
Okay.
like traveling in summer, but I won't miss the heat. Like the summer
Mm.
heat and it's just too humid for me.
Mm.
Like, especially this year, this summer, because I didn't have my the apartment I was living at, the air conditioner broke. So I
Mm.
didn't have an air conditioner the whole summer. So it
Oh
was like
my.
one of the worst times of my life in Japan.
I don't think
Have
you'll
you?
enjoy Malaysia or Singapore.
Yeah,
It's
yeah, yeah.
much hotter. It's much hotter and humid.
I've heard like Thailand and Malaysia and
Yeah.
Singapore. Wouldn't mind visiting, but I don't think I'd live in a country like that. It's just too hot for me. Like I can't
Mm.
do it. So
So do you think you will return to or visit Japan in the near future?
visit, yes, but probably not live.
So,
Because my wife is Japanese and her parents and grandparents still live in Akita Prefecture. So I'm sure she will want to see her family and will probably come visit. I don't know how often. It depends on COVID and depends on life and
mm,
money and stuff. Hopefully, every couple of years we can come do a small visit to Japan. But I don't think I'll ever live here again. I think the 15 years was good, and I think I've gotten it out of my system. And I think I will definitely live in Canada most of my life. Maybe someday I might move to another country.
mm.
Um, Probably not Asia though, but probably yeah, probably I'll just stay in Canada. I really do like Canada. I might just move to a different part of Canada because I'm from the East Coast, so maybe I might like live somewhere in the West Coast or something. See how that is, but
Okay.
I guess it would depend on like work and life and career and
Yeah.
stuff.
All
Yeah.
right. Okay. And lastly, do you have any advice or suggestions for newcomers who plan to live and work in Japan?
I would say like if if you're coming to experience new life and new culture and Japanese way of life, I guess I would say come with an open mind and don't be scared to try things. I think a lot of people like think they I don't know they have their focus. I want to do this when I get to Japan, and then they just stick to that. But once you come to Japan, you'll notice there's so many other things to do here that you didn't even think about, and like rather than just stick to one thing or just try to get I guess what I'm saying is get out of your comfort zone because there's so many experiences and so many weird things that you would think that you would never want to do, but when you get here and maybe someone will offer you a chance to do it, definitely take that chance and you'll be surprised at how fun Japan can be if you can just like not worry about anything and kind of just do whatever someone suggests. Like, there's so many like not even just cultural, but like many things that people do here that if you've never tried it, you should at least try it once. As long as it's
Okay.
legal, right?
Yeah, of course. All right, well, thank you so much for this interview and for the many YouTube videos you put out over the years on Japan. I would like to wish you and your wife a happy and safe journey to Canada. And take care and keep in touch.
And yes, come visit me in Canada when you have a chance.
Definitely for sure.
Thank you.
All right, take care.
Take care. Peace.